Hey, how's it going? Hope you've all had a good morning and enjoyed all these e-commerce talks. We are almost at lunch, but first we're going to dive into some e-commerce SEO tactics for luxury brands. But just to do a quick intro first, my name is Greta Koivikko and I'm an SEO strategist at Novus. That's me there. And we work with quite a lot of luxury brands. But this is what we'll learn today. So how the luxury market is changing, what SEO can give to luxury brands, and then the actual tactics, so looking into targeting, page experience, and content. So let's kick off. First, I'd like you to do something for me. So if you could think of a luxury brand, literally any brand, maybe get inspired by the logos in the background, but just something that comes to your mind. And I'm actually thinking about Hermes, not whatever used to be, but the French design house. And keeping this luxury brand that you're thinking about in your mind, try to position them in this graph. So where would you put them in this kind of different levels of luxury brands? Hermes definitely goes in the ultra luxury section because first, their products are expensive, but they are also quite difficult to access. Nobody really knows how you can buy a Birkin bag, which is one of their most popular products, so they've managed to keep it a mystery thing. But now that we know those two key qualities of luxury brands, difficult to access and high price, let's take a look at the luxury consumers who are actually buying these luxury products and who are the biggest purchase makers. And I gotta tell you, it's not who you think. So actually, by 2025, so in less than 2 years, millennials and Gen Z are expected to make up nearly 70% of the global luxury sales. And they've even named them, they're called the Henrys. So high earner, not rich yet. So if you hear me referring to Henrys later on, that's what I'm talking about. And this change has not gone unseen by the luxury industry. They've done quite a few changes to their strategies to be able to appeal to this new audience. And just to go through a couple of examples. So first, brand collaborations. These are a great way to bring your brand in front of new audiences and also cause a lot of hype on social media, because who would have thought, let's say 20 years ago, that Louis Vuitton would partner up with a skateboarding brand like Supreme, but this is the norm now. And speaking of social media hype, we can't talk about Gen Z without at least mentioning TikTok. This is where all the trends are born these days, regardless of the industry. So just to highlight one, has anyone here heard of quiet luxury, also known as stealth wealth? So this is a trend on TikTok that started last spring, and that was inspired by the TV show Succession, where one of the ultra-rich characters dresses up in these quite normal-looking clothes, but if you know, you can recognize that they are actually really expensive. So it's essentially very rich people dressing in a coat that only other very rich people can recognize. But it's not only about setting new trends. The young audiences are also challenging the values of the luxury market. So personal values influence purchase decisions more than ever, and the Henrys, Gen Z and millennials, are said to be the most eco-conscious and socially conscious generation, and they even take this as far as it's determining their purchase decisions. So this is something luxury brands have noticed, and they've started showing their sustainability efforts and their supply chains much more transparently. And another way that the values has shifted is we've gone from pre-owned to pre-loved. So previously, kind of second-hand luxury products didn't have the best, they were kind of stigmatized. But now, what I found quite interesting is that the luxury resale is actually growing 4 times faster than overall luxury. So there's a lot of value change that has happened. But besides values, the biggest change between millennials and Gen Z and the previous luxury consumers is their shopping habits and consumer preferences. So as we all know, the Henrys prefer to shop online, and they've grown up to get used to these things. they can get pretty much any product delivered to their home within one day. And if they see a clunky user interface, they get frustrated. So this poses a bit of a challenge because luxury retailers are traditionally not very good with e-commerce. They've been a bit slow to embrace it, and the reason for this is that the products they are selling, the way they see it, selling their products online goes against one of the core principles of luxury, so difficult to access. And to keep the luxury only within those people who can access it, they don't want to sell those products online. So because of this, many luxury brands have decided that they may have an e-commerce website, but you can't actually check out. You can only use it to research products, but not do the conversion. For that, you have to go to an actual store. But even though there's a bit of divided opinion here among luxury brands, they still can't ignore the power of e-commerce, because as many as 75% of luxury consumers do online research before they make a purchase. So whether you're one of those luxury brands that sells online or doesn't, you can't ignore these predictions. So by 2030, a whopping third of luxury sales is expected to take place in e-commerce. And this is quite the change for an industry that's traditionally very reliant on brick and mortar. But how can they adapt? This is where SEO comes into play. So I want to take you through a couple of luxury SEO tactics that have worked well for my clients. And to structure it a bit, we'll be dividing it into acquisition, conversion, and retention. So let's start with acquisition. Many luxury brands think and experience that the way they are found is through branded search, and they may be not paying that much attention to the non-branded opportunity. But there's an elephant in the room when it comes to targeting for luxury brands. So how do you reach the right audience who can actually afford your products? And I want to give a real life example about this. So we had a client that sold dressing gowns, but there's a little catch here. Their cheapest dressing gown cost £300. And when they came to us, they had their dressing gown PLP optimized for women's dressing gowns. And they weren't doing very well. So what's the issue here? Well, we can look at the SERP to find out. And what we can see here that it's not dominated by mass market sellers. And this tells us that Google sees the query women's dressing gowns as more of a general query. So people who search for that are not willing to drop £500 for a dressing gown. So our client's problem was that they were casting their net too wide by going after this generic keyword. So what was our solution? What did we recommend for them? Well, we recommended them to optimize their pages for luxury or designer keywords. And this is an approach that quite a few, even high-end luxury clients have done. And showing them these screenshots was enough to convince them. They basically thought, if it's good enough for Dior and Louis Vuitton, we can do it as well. And this had really good results for them. We saw their organic revenue go up, and they managed to rank quite high for women's luxury dressing gowns. But obviously, this is not always an option if you work in the luxury industry. You may have quite a lot of red tape that you have to navigate around. Do any of these sound familiar? Brand guidelines, legal requirements, forbidden keywords. So how can you actually find the right audience if you have so many restrictions? Or maybe you don't have really restrictions, but you might be working for a brand that doesn't want to be called a luxury brand. Remember what we discussed about quiet luxury before. So if you're in any of these situations, you may have to be a bit more discreet. But the good news is that there are ways to optimize for affluent audience without actually saying luxury or designer. And you want to look into the modifiers that customers in your niche use when they search. These are some quite common ones for the luxury space. And with this, you can create long-tail keywords that they may have lower search volume, but there's less competition, and the traffic you're getting is much higher quality and more likely to convert. So let's look at some examples of these in real life. So material, very big for high-end luxury fashion brands. I've chosen some exclusive materials there, like vicuña, which I think is the most expensive wool in the world. You may go for occasion. these are the occasions that your average customer might never experience in their lifetime. But if someone's searching for Kentucky Derby hats, they already know what they want. So if you can offer them that, you have a high chance of making a conversion. Also looking into country of origin, within your industry, there's probably a country that's associated with quality. Let's say Japanese knives, Swiss watches, you name it. Or you have manufacturing method, especially if it's eco-friendly. As we discussed before, the values are guiding purchase decisions. So now we've figured out how we can reach the right audience, and they are about to click onto our site. But how can we get them to convert? And what we have to do here, if we want to get luxury consumers to convert, we have to remember that they love brick and mortar stores. And for them, the customer experience is as important as the purchase itself. So what we can learn from this is that your page experience should be as seamless as visiting your flagship store. And now I'm going to show a couple of examples how luxury brands have either succeeded or failed at this. And I want to apologize if I happen to be using your brand as a warning example. Come talk to me after and we can figure out how to fix it. So first, something that Rob covered a bit earlier in his talk. So don't sacrifice site speed for visuals. We probably all recognize this. This is very common, especially for high-end fashion e-commerce brands. They love putting massive animations or big pictures on their homepage that take the whole screen. And they do look pretty cool, but then when you look at their core web vitals, you can see that it takes nearly 10 seconds to load the homepage on mobile. And as Rob covered before, this can have pretty detrimental effects on conversions. And also there's a statistic that says from Google that I think it's anytime a page takes more than 3 seconds to load, 50% of customers have already bounced off your site. So you really want to keep that in mind when you're choosing what visuals to put on your site. You also want to remember that most of e-commerce purchases are made on mobiles, and also that site speed is a ranking factor, and that Google is crawling and indexing mobile first. So anything you do, think mobile first. Also, another way to do is to build an intuitive information architecture. So Tiffany is a good example of this. They've managed to strike the balance between optimizing their architecture for new customers and existing customers. So you got these non-branded terms, shop by metal, shop by gemstone, that imitate the way people actually search. But then you also got the featured collections and branded terms, so people who know what they are after can find easily. So be more like Tiffany when it comes to information architectures. You also have internal linkings that don't only help users navigate, but they also give search engines better idea on what your site structure is like, and then also pass authority between different pages. And another example I found is 404 pages. These can either make or break your customer experience. It may not have a massive, you may not see a massive ranking increase after you optimize your 404 page, but it's just a little thing that shows that you care. So if you compare these two, Gucci, which was used as an example before, or Le Creuset, which one is more likely to allow the user to continue their journey? So this is your chance to really show that you care about your customer, maybe put some witty copy and then internal links that will actually benefit them so they can continue their user journey. You also want to ensure that product images show the size of the product, because one reason why luxury consumers prefer in-person shopping is that they can actually try the products in real life and see what they're like. So I don't know about you, but I probably wouldn't be very willing to spend $2,000 on something if that's the only image I see. I can't see what size it is. So make sure your images show the item in action. And then I keep referring back to one of the core principles of luxury, kind of difficult to access. So luxury consumers, they love to feel important and special. So with these little things, you can harness that part of their brain, maybe giving them exclusive access, previews to new collections, or membership-only parts of your website. Things like this really mimic the in-person shopping experience you'd get at a flagship store. And also bridge the gap between online and offline shopping. During the pandemic, where people couldn't go to physical shop, many luxury brands really leveraged things like augmented reality technology and remote personal shopping services to remind their customers that they are still there and to help them access that high level of customer service even from their home. And finally, remember what your most important page is. This might come as a surprise to you, but just keep in mind that no matter how good your page experience is, some luxury consumers will always only use your e-commerce site for research and then do the actual purchase in store. So this is the page, store locator. You don't want to do like Tom Ford, whose store locator is broken. So once you ensure that your store information and also store locator are working, this allows a seamless omni-channel conversion to happen. So yeah, we've gotten to conversion now. That was our main thing, right? Well, not really. We also want to retain those customers. We want them to come back and keep engaging with our brand. And one way to do is to look into the different opportunities the conversion funnel, the journey to conversion actually offers, because there's lots of content opportunities there. And obviously I can't speak at Brighton without saying content is king. So yes, content is king for retention. And if you don't do it, somebody else will. So I found a couple of examples, how to choose Manolo Blahnik shoes and Rolex sizes. These are really valuable queries for those brands, but they don't have any product to match those queries, so the customers will go elsewhere to find those answers. So to avoid this from happening, you want to create content that targets every stage from the funnel, from the early research stages to the post-conversion stage. Because if at any point of the funnel, the customer has to go on another site to find that information, you've lost them. It's much more unlikely that they'll come back. So just want to show a couple of examples of luxury e-commerce brands that have really nailed it, these content types for different stages of the funnel. And one example that you'll see coming up is Le Creuset. Their blog is fantastic. So I'd love to meet whoever works there as a content strategist. Can really recommend that as an example of good content that converts. So starting with the research stage, I'd recommend some tangential, I've always struggled with that word, tangential content that will resonate with your audience. So it may not be directly about your products, but it's going to be about themes and topics that resonate with your audience and the lifestyle they live or aspire to live. So for example, Louis Vuitton, who has a lot of suitcases, they have their own travel collection, or Le Creuset offering recipes. So this will put you in front of those customers who may not even know about your brand or know that they need your products, but this is the way to target them and their informational queries. Then you can go next stage deeper. You can do how-to guides that offer solutions to specific problems. So again, these people are not searching product first, they are searching problem first, but by providing them a solution, maybe one that includes your product, you can again put yourself there in front of them. Then we're getting closer to the actual conversion. So buying guides and comparison articles. This is getting closer to the experience you'd get at a physical luxury store. So maybe the questions you'd ask the sales assistant to try and understand the differences between similar types of products, or what you need to take into account so you can buy the right product for your specific needs. And then to the actual conversion. So you've now managed to get your customer on your PDP, but it's not really a done deal yet. There's still a lot of things there that might make them bounce. So you want to provide a lot of rich content on the PDP, which obviously will boost your EEAT score if you can showcase your expertise and authority, but then you can also provide the kind of information that they'd be needing at this stage. Like for example, if you're thinking of paying £500 for a casserole, which I'd love to do. I quite like baking and cooking. But at this point, your final concern might be, but does it fit with my oven? So they are, with this clever piece of content there, Le Creuset is helping them see that instead of them having to go elsewhere and find out. And then maybe the most neglected part of content that converts, post-conversion content. So your customer has now bought your product, but you want to retain them and you want to make sure that they keep coming back. So you offer them additional value, maybe some tips and tricks how to use your product and how to get more value out of it. And this is really the type of thing that people keep coming back to. And then just key takeaways. I can see 18 seconds left, so I won't read these out loud. but this is just everything summed up. Oh yeah, that was. And then finally, if you want to learn more about e-commerce SEO, check out our blog at Novus. I'll be writing an article about this talk at some point, and thank you.